folks, we are back. I think everybody was happy
Ate
with their
much,
meal.
Too much.
The food was
Did
great.
you enjoy?
Thank
Did you enjoy my meal?
Actually, when we had the potato chip nachos, thank you. Then I got a potato chip bowl. I can't. I love potato chips. No man can eat that many potato chips.
That was good. I ate some of it too.
Yeah, I said, yeah, that didn't make it, but the food was wonderful.
It was. So we definitely recommend it. And as I mentioned earlier, I have been here when they first pulled in the the tanks for the beer brewing, and on their grand opening. You can find those videos out there. But why don't you lead us into what we're getting into in this discussion, more Enbridge discussion?
Well, I think most importantly, you know, when I got the letter, it was interesting, and I don't think John will mind me saying this. I had a two-pronged idea about it, which was, you know, prong A is hell no, but prong B is, but if you do come through, do this. I become more prone to prong A the longer I hang out with John, 'cause he doesn't know the word maybe. He knows the word
Hell
heck
no.
no. Well,
Heck
hell
no. Heck no.
Yeah.
And so he's inspiring people. I'm not all the way there yet, but I'm drifting that direction.
Thank you so
And,
much.
Thank you.
And you know, and John's really inspiring people on how to do this. And I think a couple of things that I would say is when people get involved, if the land agent calls you.
Not me.
No, not him. If the land agent calls you, make sure you write back to them and reiterate what was said. And I say it for two reasons. One, there's not a person who's got letters from Enbridge who's not, you know, hyped up, angry, scared, all rolled into one. And when they say something to you, you just want to make sure you make it clear and that you're on the same page with them. And unless you write it down, none of that matters. You know, none of what was said matters.
Exactly.
Because if you say, remember that conversation, I mean,
Yeah.
the land agent may not be there at all. You know, he may get hit by a truck.
Well,
So
I mean, what they teach you in the first chapter of real estate, writing prevails.
Right.
And so, yeah.
All right. How quickly should, going back to John's discussion in the first half of this conversation, how quickly should they write back?
I would write the second you're off the phone. And the reason is your memory's at its clearest. And unless you've got a stenographer taking down every word that's said, you're not going to be clearer than the moment that it's said. And it protects the land agent, it protects you, it keeps everything, you know, right where you want it. And I don't, you know, there is a train of thought which is don't want to talk to you, don't want to hear you, and I admire that position. And I'm not saying don't emulate it, but if you do choose to talk to them, which I've done, but then again, I'm an attorney who's been through a lot. Just make sure if you talk to them that you write it down.
Yeah, and I would add to it, because of modern technology, I email Enbridge or their land agents. It's always email, and I've told them in the emails only communicate with me through email.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do is CC it to various people depending upon the conversation with Enbridge
Right.
and their surveyors. I CC it to different people on the corridor.
Mm-hmm.
I blind copy people. I blind copy all kinds of entities, which I won't go into detail because other people may be listening and say, oh, I need to acquire that information from so-and-so.
Right.
So I'm not talking specifics.
Right.
The bottom line is you can share that communication with an army of fellow citizens and become powerful just by doing exactly what you said, which is communicate directly back with them ASAP.
Right.
And so what's faster than the speed of light? I don't know of anything. So email and boom, it's done. You have a record.
So one other thing is you were saying that you think the next step, and no one no one at the Enbridge meeting, I only went the Tuesday night, brought this up, but you're saying that they're going to bring boring companies in to drill holes in your
Well,
property.
in their original letter, they let it out of the box. They said the surveyors, okay, that company, but they also mentioned other companies that I've actually done work for. They're engineering companies that do the geotechnical type work that Enbridge needs.
Okay.
And I said, oh, okay. So you're bringing in the big boys. It's not just simply surveyors.
Right.
You're wanting to do all kinds of stuff on my land. And I said, no,
Right. So, how deep would they bore?
I don't know.
It's just
I've
that
never been
it's-
confirmed by this, but they want to know what's the geology like, how close to the surface, what are the soils like, are they highly malleable, do the heavy equipment get bogged down in those soils? They can do a lot of that with just studying soils.
They're really
maps
worried
at
about
the
rock,
county.
though. Rock.
The
is what-
rock, and
Well-
I won't go into detail about our place, but we actually have a fault that goes right through our house that's 550 million years old, believe it or not. And we have outcroppings of metavolcanic rock all on our property. And one of the previous owners of our property said, we retain the mineral rights for 40 years in case you develop this property. And again, will be coming out to those judges
Right.
if I have to go before judges and plead my case when Enbridge is there. So lots of arguments.
Okay, so on the rock, for
Yeah.
example, like if rock is bad for them, hopefully they'll find it as distasteful as they can, because my property, at least where it looks like they want to go through, ain't nothing but rock.
Right.
There's a
we're-
difference between North Chatham and Mid Chatham. When we see rock in North Chatham, I mean, as a guy that walks a lot of land, you have rock, but it's not like North Chatham. I mean, it is crazy amount.
Yeah, so you're talking about the granites
Yeah.
that are up there, the
Uh-huh.
big rounded boulders and all.
Well,
What we're talking about is extremely hard rock.
Mine's just
All you
solid
have-
rock.
All you have to do is go down 15501 out of Pittsboro, and you'll see where they're putting in the sewer line.
Right.
And they're having to go through that same metavolcanic rock that we're talking about that extends all the way to Siler City and beyond.
Well, mine,
It's bad news for directional boring, which you're
Yeah.
going to have to do some directional boring, or for cutting through the landscape. As I said from the very beginning, Enbridge was basically out of its mind to choose a route like this. They have so many obstacles in front of them. It makes no sense from anything I've ever experienced as an environmental scientist. It makes no sense.
It's big tracks, though, wasn't it? Don't you think it was the big tracks?
I think it was that.
Well, you mentioned another component that I think during the second public hearing about some kind of stations or
the compression station.
compression
yeah.
station.
Yeah, yeah.
What are those?
How often do we have those? How many? What is this? 22 miles? 28 miles?
It's
28.
28 miles. Yeah, so for example, the T15 line that's going from Rockingham County to Person County up north of us, big Enbridge pipeline to deliver gas to Duke facilities there. They have a compressor station to bump up the pressure adequate to get that gas through the system to meet the needs at this end, to keep the gas going this way. So right on their map, all you have to do is just go to the T15 project, Google it, look at their maps and say, oh, there's a compressor station. So in my mind, I look at the compressor stations that they have in this greater area around Chatham County. They have a line that goes from the northeast to the southwest of Chatham County. So it's up here, it goes like that. And then to the southeast, going to the southwest, there's another line, and there's nothing in between. They put compressor stations in very rural places, such as my home or my next door neighbor's home, which they put up no pipeline signs all over.
Right.
And yet Enbridge people were out there surveying their property this morning when I called. So the compressor station, they put them in rural areas because there aren't enough rural people to complain so the politicians listen, so they put them there. So ultimately, I think, can't prove it because I don't see any of their plans, nowhere, they're going to need a compressor station in there for this 12-inch line that they're planning to put in, because they're going to be connecting this to a 10-inch line inside our city, to an 8-inch line on 15501, and a 6-inch line right next to the Ecotip facility that they're going to use all this gas. And if you look at Corinth Road in Moncure, it's all marked up with yellow paint. Do you know what yellow paint means?
Gas.
Gas.
Yeah.
After that lunch. Okay, so
You're not wearing a yellow shirt.
So
thank goodness.
where do you think that the compression station would go?
On my neighbor's land, on the high point, where he's
Is
wanting
it
to build
is it a
house.
topo thing, or
Seriously.
is it a linear feet thing?
What's that?
Is it a topo thing? Is it an elevation thing,
Well,
or is it
number
a
one, you don't want to put any facilities that are worth anything down low, floodplains, and you want to get them as far away from people as possible because they make noise, they stink, and it's a 24/7 thing at times.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, at times you hear all this massive release of gas. So yeah, we won't be bothered at our house. No, not at all. So yeah, I think that's where it's going. It's right next to us.
Is it X amount of linear feet?
No. Remember, I am a biologist. I'm the one that flips rocks over in
Gotcha.
the mud,
Gotcha.
looks for the creepy crawlies and the creeks. So
We may have to look
I'm not
for
an
that kind of
engineer.
guest for the next three guys.
Yeah, it would be recommended, and so I don't know, but I think that's going to be the case. And there are other moving parts that I'm not privy to. How do these lines connect in with the lines that are down in Lee County, for example, with the new data center that they're talking about
Right.
in Lee County, North
Right.
Lee? Oh, the list goes on and on. We could have multiple compressor stations. And what I'm most concerned about for Chatham County is Enbridge can do whatever it wants to do because the state legislature has allowed them to do so through the state statute that facilitates what they're doing. I fear that they're going to put another line because I've seen Enbridge surveyors all over US 421 in the past month. I think they're going to put
Wait a
a
minute.
line. Yes.
I live on 421.
I think they're going to put a line right up to 421.
Right in front of your house.
Elementary.
Okay, so this is my picture of what Chatham County is going to look like
If
in the future, if all comes to pass. So, we're 20 years from now. We have a gas line, if all goes as their plans go. We're going to have a gas line going from Moncure to Cider City, going through what used to be rural landscapes. We're going to have a gas line going from Gulf, where they have a 4-inch line going over to 15501 that connects in with the 8-inch line there. We're going to have a gas line that they put in next year going right up 421 to Cider City. And the ultimate goal is we're going to have 2 mega sites, huge areas that are already basically planned, zoned industrial. And we're going to have mega sites galore or whatever. And they're going to be sited by rights, just like with real estate, typical real estate transactions. They're going to be sited by rights on those areas, and we're going to have all this gas flowing, and everybody's going to be unhappy.
Right.
So we want to prevent that. So we need to erase that from your minds.
Okay.
I didn't say that, but that's the future if we don't fight them.
Right. What other questions do you think people would want to know?
What's the strategy?
Actually, I do have a question because this question came to me several times. On the second public hearing, you mentioned because they hemmed and hawed about, and I forget the exact statement that they used, but they basically said, we are not building this pipeline for one specific customer. I think that's kind of the words that they used.
Oh, yeah.
And to a certain extent, that statement may be true. However, in that second meeting, when you were doing your presentation, you
Right.
mentioned towards the end, you said, in your documentation. I think you mentioned in the shareholders report, and I've
Yes.
had several people ask me, where can I find the shareholders report, from what year? And so that's
Yeah. Okay. The fact is, and I'll cut to the chase first, and then I'll explain.
all right.
Okay, so this gas line, if you use their maps and transcribe their maps very carefully onto your own GIS system, mapping system, the pipeline goes right from Cider City there at the Rocky River on 64, right there, goes all the way to Moncure and goes directly to the 6-inch gas pipeline in front of Ecotip. Now that's pretty incredible. Okay, so why are they doing this? Ecotip is going to require 750 megawatts of electricity. You can get that 750 megawatts from nuclear, coal, while it's still available to burn, or from gas. If you look, and this is the reference, you have to do a Google search on Enbridge 2025 Shareholders Day report. You have to include Shareholders Day report.
Okay, so you folks heard that shareholders day report.
Yes, and it's 60 some pages, and in it it says that Enbridge's future forecast for gas needs
For the entire state.
for the entire state is 0.8 billion cubic feet of gas per day additional during the next few years. If you take the 750 megawatts of electricity required by the Ecotip site and translate that into gas need, it becomes 25% of Enbridge's total expected gas prediction for the next. Sorry about that.
No.
There,
Life happens.
yeah. So it's 25% of their future needs for the entire state go into that one plant if they use just gas. And I think
They'd use an
Well,
on-site gas turbine, right?
That,
Yeah,
that
on site.
proposed site is like 15 times the size of a normal site.
yeah, it's
The
huge.
huge.
Ecotip site.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I've gotten a one-on-one training on data centers for the planning board here lately, and 750 is ginormous.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's big. So that's why Enbridge is doing what it's doing, and our state legislature, bless their heart, they're allowing this to happen where we're just being slapped around as citizens. And in our old age, my old age, not you guys' old age, I think I'm
Well,
the
we're getting
elder
there. We're
here.
We're getting there.
But in my old age, what I had planned to do is just pick blueberries and do things like that this time of year. It's not going to happen. So what we're having to do is spend our last years of life, because I've told my children, do not get involved with this. You guys have children to raise. You have jobs to fulfill. You have things you've got to do that are extremely important. And I can't go into any detail. So it's our job to do this. So we do it. So it's going to take a lot of gas, and Enbridge is after that, and they are going to bug us until something happens. And the 421 route that I mentioned before, US 421, they don't have to eminent domain anybody's property by doing that. So they're going to.
It's already a designated interstate, too.
yes.
Yeah.
And so what they're going to do is put that gas pipeline they plan right through rural Chatham County. That has to go. That is public because they're trying to take people's land. The 421 route, they don't have to tell anybody, not even any agency in state government do they have to tell, we're planning to do this.
I haven't been
until
notified.
finally it goes before the North Carolina Division of Water Resources for their 401 certification, and then the public says, oh my God, we didn't even know that was happening. But I think that's what's happening because they're not doing all this work here and going up 421 for nothing because they're spending
Well,
millions
could
of
one
dollars
be
on
an
the planet.
alternate to the other?
What's that?
Could one be an alternate to the other?
I think with
We're
all the
not
opposition,
sacrificing my property to help your property.
Yes, we are.
well, actually,
I'm kidding.
the way it's planned, they're not going to touch your property.
Right.
And that's why at that meeting, I wasn't slapped down, pelted with tomatoes, because I said that's an alternative that you should explore going up 421.
But they haven't looked at any alternatives, have they? Or haven't publicly mentioned anything? Or do you?
They don't have to.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying the state legislature. I've written to the state legislature, the head of the Senate and the head of the House, and nothing. Crickets. I've written to our representatives. I've heard from one, I'm not going to name any names, I've heard from one senator or House member, but I haven't heard from the other. But other people have. So we're at least getting local impact.
Take a time out.
So it's going to be a battle.
All right, folks, we're going to be right back. Take a quick time out. There's a lot more important stuff. Don't go away.
Well, Greg has a lot more important stuff too.